What is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another weekly GSD Mode podcast interview where every single week I interview top entrepreneurs, top real estate professionals, and straight up top badasses. They're out there dominating their spaces. They're people choosing to not live a life of mediocrity, but instead to go out there and create big, amazing, epic lives for themselves, for their families, as well as have a big impact on others. And today, guys, we got another rock star guest on the show. Our guest today, guys, is one of the top team leaders in the entire nation, one of the top team leaders in the state of Colorado, doing just over $92 million a year in gross sales volume. And personally, in addition to his team production, he personally is selling 100 plus homes each and every year. And today, guys, we cover so much ground. We go deep into mindset, how to stay positive, how to stay focused, how to see opportunities, even in times of crisis and down markets and so forth. Talk about market shifts and how to adapt quickly to those different market shifts and continue to make sure that your business is thriving regardless of what is taking place in the economy. Now, real quick, before we get into today's epic podcast interview with Brendan Bartic, make sure that you guys check out 41 Tips with JoshuaSmith.com if you would like 41 weekly coaching email tips delivered to your email box each and every single week. Custom written by me. These are things that I'm doing at a high level inside my business that have allowed me to become one of the top agents on the planet, top team leaders on the planet. Nothing being sold 100% free. Again, check out 41 Tips with JoshuaSmith.com. Also, if you're interested in being mentored by me personally at a higher level in your real estate business, make sure to check out masterybootcamp.com, where you can learn about my personal coaching and mentorship program for real estate professionals looking to massively grow and scale your real estate business. Again, masterybootcamp.com. All right, guys, let's jump on into today's epic interview, and I'll see you in the podcast. All right, Brendan, what's up, my man? So stoked and honored to have you here on the podcast, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Joshua. I'm really excited to get this going.
Yeah, dude, and you're extremely successful real estate agent that's been in the game for a long time and doing a lot of production. Your team right now is doing about 100 million a year in gross sales volume. But unlike a lot of team leaders, that are not in production per se, in addition to all your team's volume, you're still personally selling like 100 homes a year, which just blows my mind, with the volume that you're doing plus the volume that your team's doing. And one thing I'm really intrigued with before we hit the record button, you were talking about things that you are doing right now, is the time that we're recording this. Somebody might be watching this years down the road, but the time that we're recording this, man, we're kind of in the middle of this whole coronavirus crisis deal that's taking place. And what I'm seeing is top producers like yourself just pivoting so well that you're not shutting down, going into fear mode, but pivoting really well. And it seems, from my conversation with you and so many other top producers in our space that, their businesses aren't being hit hard, right, with these changes. So with that being said, man, I'm really curious on, the things that you're doing. But before we get into the things that you're done to shift, man, I'm really curious in first how your mindset works. Right? Because I'm a big believer in that, we've got to be able to keep this clear so we can see the opportunities at hand. And so how does your mindset really work when it comes to big shifts like we're experiencing right now?
Yeah, and that's a great way of looking at it. It is all mindset. So one of the things that we started focusing on once all this started happening was going, okay, we can either sit around and complain and whine, or we can focus on our target goal and say, okay, instead of why can't we sell 30 houses in 1 month, what do we have to do with this new situation to sell 30 houses in 1 month, right? So we started looking at when it started kicking off was, first of all, back in March, we were like, okay, we want to sell 30 in May. What do we have to do in May? Regardless if we get our hands tied, we can't go out and show houses, all these excuses, don't care. Let's start with that target goal at the end of the yellow brick road, and then just back out to what has to happen and take in every idea of worst case scenario. And so we started doing that early on. We were I think in the beginning of March, or even whenever this all started kicking off, we had a 10-hour strategy session with my leadership team where we just started thinking about just that. What do we have to do? And so that just changed our mindset. We got more excited about it. And we said, okay, first of all, we got to develop a virtual listing presentation, which again, I just taught a class on this morning, and what we're going to continue to be teaching these webinars. We had to start figuring out how we could do everything without actually physically entering a property and still have it sell, which we've already done multiple times and had success with that. And then we also had to start talking about, if not now, when, right? So can we dial in and get agreements signed? Can we get people in relationships with us? So when we get out of jail, right, we're ready to rock and roll, right? Nothing stops that beat, but we're already prepped and ready to go, where some people are going, just call me back when they say you can, go and look at houses and we'll figure it out. We're saying, let's do everything we can now, because you have time and we're stuck in these situations. So when we can go out and legally look at properties, we're ready to rock and roll. So we just really, when you hit the nail on the head, we just took the mindset of not woe is me. What do we have to do to get this done?
Yeah, love it, man. I mean, it's being proactive, not reactive, right? I love that. So then, next question is, and I've struggled with this even in my own real estate team with some of our agents, not all of them, but some of them. You as the team leader, it's one thing to have your mindset there, but how are you managing, for those team leaders or broker owners that are listening to this, that are maybe having difficulty getting their agents to really adopt to that opportunity kind of growth mindset that you're discussing? What are some things that you've done to kind of calm the, I guess, nerves of your agents, your teammates, and get them operating in this same mindset?
Yeah. So we took him through exercises on what can you control, what you can't control, right? So here's the two things. We know you can't control these things. Here's what you can control. Develop that list of what they can be doing daily. And we follow a very kind of strict top producer schedule that we've developed. And then on top of that piece, we had to make it fun. So what are little short-term 1-week goals that we can all hit? And for us, we know one of our big, what we call a key performance indicator, is leads entered into our system, or not leads, but we call it a lead, a person, a nurture that we put into our system and is processed into 100%. So meaning that they're put on a market report, they're put on a text campaign, they're put on an email campaign, they're put on our direct mail campaign. And we know for every 30 of those we have in our database, we close a transaction as a team. So if we develop these short-term goals of going, okay, look, we get it that you can't, or not can't, that it's more difficult now to go and show properties. But the one thing you can control, Susie, is you can control how many people you put into your database and process 100%. So it's just taking the little actions, breaking them down into bite-sized pieces, so they're not caught up in the whole overwhelming, oh, what am I going to do for the next 6 months? Control what you can control. Again, we are very contact oriented. We define a contact by a conversation about somebody buying or selling real estate. So we know, you make 100 calls, you have 20 contacts, you usually end up with 1 or 2 people you would put into your database to nurture. And if we follow that and we say, okay, if I put 10 people in a week, that's going to be 40 a month. I'll close 1 deal a month, no matter what, if I just do that simple act. And so it's just breaking it down into chunkier little pieces.
Yeah, love that, man. So then, a question that I'm getting from a lot of agents right now is, that maybe they are lead generating, and we're seeing certain sources like Facebook ads where the cost per lead is the cheapest that we've ever seen it, right? So even we might get a lot of leads coming in, but a lot of people I think are feel guilty maybe or concerned or don't really know what to say on the phone, because they're like, man, people are going through a tough time. They're scared. Maybe they're losing their jobs or in fear of that, right? And it's like, well, we don't want to be the guy that's like, hey, do you want to buy or sell real estate? When, so are you handling those reach outs and those conversations differently now going through this crisis than before this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the answer is we have a kind of a phrase that I always think of is be empathetic, not apologetic, right? I can empathize with you that this situation is difficult, but I can't apologize for it because I didn't create the situation. So we're trying to say to people, how are you doing? What can we do to help? What does your world look like if you don't sell? So the question I keep getting all the time, and I have a YouTube video for both of these scripts, right now, is should I wait to sell and should I wait to buy, right? Should I wait to sell, Brendan, because of all of this situation? Well, every situation is different, Joshua, right? Like if we're looking at that situation, the answer is, number one, if we're not on the market, We can't sell your house, period, end of story. That's just a fact. And number two, if we wait to put it on the market, what's going to happen is when this all blows over, there's going to be a flood of homes hitting the market, driving down prices. And you do want to get the most money possible for the home, correct? They say yes, absolutely. So John, it might be the best decision for you at this point to be on the market. We can have digital showings, meaning people can, I'm trying to get the mindset of the sellers to really understand now that showings are still happening. They're just happening online. And, you know, Joshua, wouldn't you agree that right now people have more time to be online than ever before? Of course, right? So why not have them looking at your property instead of your competitor's property? So let's get it on the market. We're putting clauses into our contracts where people can write the contract and then put a clause that we have in there that says that it just basically the dates will all be pushed once we're allowed to physically enter the property in person. So go under contract now, inspection period is set for X date, buyer gets to come in. If they hate the property, they cancel. What was the harm in that? You go back on the market and you're the same place where you'd have been anyway with the rest of the competition, but at least you got somebody locked in now. I can't lock anybody in right now if we're not on the market.
Yeah, love that. So then in for sellers, you know, right, with the fear, not the fear, but the reality of the economic blowback of this being, you know, who knows what it's going to be, but it could be big, you know, right? And what you just alluded to, and right now they can capitalize on getting top dollar because we have record high prices in most markets. But on the buyer side, you know, right, you know, a lot of buyers might be then thinking, well, hell, if all this inventory is going to come in and prices are going to drop, why wouldn't I just wait? You know, right? So how does that conversation differ for a buyer?
Great question. Yeah. So what we call the should I buy script. So completely understand, Joshua. And let me ask you this, the right now, if it was the perfect situation, take this virus out of the picture. When would you have liked to be in the new home? They say a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. Okay. And so it sounds like you wanted to get in as soon as possible. Now, what we do currently know is two things. Number one, you're currently renting a property right now, right? Let's just say if they're a renter, I'll do the other one with if they own the home. So if you're renting right now, regardless of what you do, Joshua, you're still going to be paying somebody else's mortgage down every month that we wait. And we don't know what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. You don't have a crystal ball. But we do know one thing right now, right? You're renting and you're making somebody else rich, right? So if you don't buy now, that's going to continue to happen. Number two, we know currently mortgage rates are historically low. And we don't know if they're going to stay that way. And I truly can tell you, I doubt they will because they historically don't. So just as I'm sure you're aware, a 1% change in the mortgage rate, so if you go from a 3.5% to a 4.5%, is a 10% reduction in your purchasing power. So again, if you were going to buy a $100,000 property and you were at a 3.5% mortgage rate, if the mortgage rates go to 4.5%, you can only qualify for $90,000. So those are factors that we can deal with at a reality right now. You're making somebody else rich and the money is cheaper than it's ever been. Both of those things are factors on why I would say you're in a better position to buy now than to wait. But at the end of the day, Joshua, it comes down to whatever you want to do. So what would you like to do?
Yep.
And that's kind of the script, right? So it's just trying to make and those are true things. I truly believe those things, right? Who knows what, if they jack up the rates to 5%, I mean, that's still low. If you think about historically, 5% is low. If they go to 6 or 7, at some point, all this money they're giving, things are going to have to repair somehow, and they're going to have to correct these things. We can always just keep fronting the money until some point, but sometime somebody's going to ring the bell at some point to do the call. And right now, I'd rather have cheap money and stop making somebody else rich. Now, if they're already a seller that they're doing a sell buy, that's even easier. On a sell buy, look, whatever you sell at now, whatever property you're buying is going to be in the same situation as well. So it's an even trade, right? It's not like you're selling here and buying higher. If anything, if you're in a lower price point, you're moving up to a higher price point. The higher price point properties are going to be harder hit by this than the lower price because there's less buyer demand for it. So it's the perfect time to go from a $500,000 home to an $800,000 home because you're not going to get as affected as much because there's a bigger buyer pool. But that guy at $800,000, there's not as many buyers, so he's got to come down. So you might get the deal of a lifetime if you upgrade right now. So those are just, and I know I'm going kind of fast, but those are just some of the because that's true. Those are all reality-based facts.
Yep. Nah, that's powerful stuff, man. I love it, dude. And you know, you can tell that, you know, like you're in the game, you're in the trenches. Doing,
Yeah. I say that probably 7 to 10 times a day, right? So yeah, yeah. And that's the thing, right? Role play in practice is just, all of that stuff sounds smooth, but if you get, we practice with our agents all the time. If it doesn't, if they think there's a hint of doubt in your presentation, they're gone. They're gone.
Yep. Yep. So powerful, man. So then from there, you talked about adapting to, because really the things that we just talked about, or you just discussed, we're really kind of discussing more of the economics of what's taking place, right? But then there's a second thing taking place right now, which is, I think, the first time in really any of our real estate careers where we've had where the crisis is actually a virus, right? So then they have the safety and health concerns of increasing their, risk and exposure to this. And sounds like you guys have adapted very quickly with virtual presentations, virtual showings, and so forth. Can you kind of walk us through some of the things that you're doing there, and how maybe you're presenting those, whether it be a virtual showing or a virtual listing presentation and so forth?
Yeah, great point. And so with the seller, what we're looking at is saying, okay, we've got a couple of options here. Number one, if you're in a state or in an area where you're still allowed to have a photographer go and access the property, you can still do that. And then they're going to go and take a Matterport or a full live virtual tour, which is going to cost you a little bit more money than traditional photography, but it literally is as if you're walking through the home in person. So if you can do that, then great. If you can't access the property, then you're dubbing your seller as the new photographer. What we've been teaching a lot is our sellers of how to become photographers. So we've got videos that we send them in prep, and we go, Mr. Seller, you don't have much to do anyway. Now's your time to become a master photographer, and I want to tell you the angles and shots that we need to make your house look fantastic, so we can at least take it to the market without anybody entering the home. Okay. Now, for showings, as far as the showings go, same thing. We're FaceTiming the seller with a particular buyer. And again, we prep them on what not to say and don't talk to the buyer, and, just be very, because what you don't want is a seller on the phone talking to a buyer and being like, yeah, and you see here, this is a small crack, but we never really cared about this crack, right? Like it's always been there and there's no structural damage. And you're like, oh my gosh. So you've got to prep them on being very delicate on what they do with these FaceTime showings. But basically, they're just walking through the property, just taking people through it, and after that, it's like they're there in person, except they can't smell the cat pee from your cat, right? Like that's the nice part. So that's how we're getting past that. Now, if you're still allowed to have showings in the area that you're in, we've all of our agents dropped off what we call sanitization stations, which include masks, gloves, booties, Lysol, hand wipes, and they sit outside of every property. With instructions in a frame that we created that says, here's what we'd like you to do before you enter the property, and here are the instructions on what we'd like you to do as you exit. So they just kind of, it's like a doctor getting ready for surgery. They go in, they come out, then they're gone. So those are just some of the little pieces. And then as far as protecting the buyer, if the buyer still want to go into the property, again, it's just gloves, mask. All of our people have it. We're not driving anybody into properties anymore. What we tell them is, look, we'll get there. I'll open the property for you. I'll let you go in. You can enjoy the property. Let me know your thoughts. I've already previewed it. And then if you want to make an offer, we'll get on the phone, talk about the offer details, air high five, and we'll get you to where you want to go. So that's all that's really changed. Is it's just different. It's just like another level of a pain that you have to do. But now that we're kind of we're in the cycle of it, it's not a big deal. We're just like, it's the way we have to do business now. So let's just keep rocking.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And then I have to imagine, man, that the buyers and sellers that maybe still decide to not move forward during this time, maybe they want to wait 60 to 90 days, but just the fact that you've articulated how you've adapted so quickly, I have to then imagine, it's yet to tell. We'll know in 90 days or so, right? But showing the value of how quickly that you've adapted and stepped up for your clients and really being a leader during this time, I'm sure that's going to give them full certainty of going with you and not going with anybody else. Because there's very few agents that are leveling up to this level like you guys are.
And that's what I just keep saying is I go, look, every little thing we do, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You hit the nail on the head with what you just said. Yeah. Either they're going to see how much passion we have for it right now, and that's going to pay off later. And even if they say, Brennan, at the end of the day, I don't care what you say, I'm waiting a year, I'm cool with that. But Joshua, when you're ready, I'm your man. Let's be very clear on that. I'm your person that's going to get this done for you. And I'm going to be there every step of the way. I'm going to keep giving you weekly updates. I'm going to tell you the market stats. I'm going to give you mortgage information. I'm going to be an informational resource. So at any time when you tell me, hey, let's flick on that switch and let's go, I'm ready to rock and roll, and we'll have you up on the market less than 48 hours. We'll have you go into your new home. That's all. So yeah, it's just, people are getting so frustrated right now. They go like this. Well, if I can't do anything right now, then I might as well just go hiking or go biking. It's like, you can still do things now. It's just preparing for the months to come.
Yep. Love it. And the great thing is, yeah, there might be less buyers and sellers out there actively buying and selling, but there's still a big percentage out there buying and selling. But there's a hell of a lot more real estate agents burying their head in the sand and just not working right now. So there's way more business to really be had than there was prior to this.
Yeah, and Joshua, looking at it, here's the craziest part is, right? Think about everybody that owns an Airbnb right now that's going, man, I don't think I want to own an Airbnb anymore, or that are living outside of their means that had an Airbnb. So that's a bucket for us that we're targeting big time. And when I say targeting, helping, right? Then landlords, they're going, hey, I can't get a tenant in here possibly right now because everybody's worried about the high rent and if rent's going to go down. Well, hey, then why don't you just sell it? Let's be done with it. So land, what we call rent by owners, those are a big bucket for us right now. And then unfortunately I've been through multiple, market shifts, or I was trying to say the politically right word. I've been through different sucky parts of time where this was, pain. And when it happens, we also have a large bucket of sellers who are going to have to sell because they lost their job, and their job is not going to come back for probably 6, 7, 8 months, and they can't afford to make their payment. And that's just a reality. So I want to be empathetic of that and be there to help them before it gets in. They built all this equity up over the last 10 years. Let me help you save some of it before it drops to a point where you're going to be really left holding the bag. Let's get you out, get you into a rental for a temporary, get you back working, get you back to where you need to be or live with a family member. And then we'll buy again once you're back in your new job and you can rebuild. It's a sucky conversation, but it's happening every day.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And yeah, crises always suck, right? It sucks watching people be in a tough position, and obviously this one being also having the health negative implications, but the reality is we can't control those things. There's just all these opportunities that, even though they're unfortunate that they're created, the reality is these people need help, and you're just being there to guide them and help them through these tough times.
That's it. Helping them. I always say, we're just here to provide you the best information possible for you to make an educated decision.
Yep. Love it, man. So then it sounds like you've also pivoted your lead generation strategies or tactics, right? So you mentioned going after AirbNBs, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And then with landlords, it's, I was talking with a friend the other day. Now he has one of his good friends that owns an apartment building, and it's his only source of income. And now, even though he has a lot of equity in it, there's no tenants paying their money, right? And he's like, dude, if I can't unload this quick, I'm out. But who wants to buy it now? Right? Like it's crazy times right now. And, I guess the first question is, like, where are you getting this data from, and then what does, is this marketing efforts, prospecting, calls, door knocking, or so forth, during these times?
Well said. Yeah, and the other thing is like you said about the apartment complex gentlemen, and then people that maybe own multiple properties. They also can't borrow that equity out right now because every bank has put a kibosh on a HELOC, right? You can't get a home equity line. So because that was the first thing everybody started doing. They were like, how much can I take out of my properties? And the banks were like, nope. So you're right. It's the American problem. People were living too close to the level of even. They didn't have enough in savings. And when something went sour, they were borrowing from here to pay this. And then everybody got that call, right? Now everybody goes, oh, I didn't realize I was that close to the line. So to answer your question about the buckets, there's paid services that provide us a lot of this data. So whether it's Vulcan 7, Mojo, the Red X, they harvest a lot of this rent by owner data for us. You can still go classic and old school. So you can go to your MLS, run the public records, and find everybody that has an out-of-state address for the property. That's the easiest way to do it. Then you take that list, depending on how much money you want to spend, you can do it the freeway and go to like people search or 411.com, do reverse address and try to find their phone number manually. You can do it that way. You can have paid services like what Nexus Lexus, which is like the services that bounty hunters use to find people, right? Like that information. That's going to cost you about $1,200 a month. So it's pricey, but it's very, very effective and good. So the answer, kind of back to what we said at the beginning, there's a way to get this stuff done. You just have to start Googling and going, all right, how do I get contact info for Airbnb owners? You'll get 50 Google posts that'll explain exactly how to do this, right? It's so crazy how much information. I mean, back when I hate to say when I used to do it, I was like, we literally would take the MLS, we would have to do it manually and cross-reference it with the phone book. I'm not kidding, like an actual phone book. And then we would, it was brutal. So now we've got so many ways to find people. And then on top of that, social media. So there's a lot of social media. You can run a quick little Facebook ad saying, concerned about the virus, concerned about Corona and the value of your Airbnb. Click here to get a free consultation with the market analysis for your property to see if now might be the best time to sell. Right? Just providing people those kind of quick little lead sources, and don't hold me to that verbiage, it's better than that, but something along those lines that just gets them thinking, well, maybe I should see what my value is for it right now, and what could I do to get out of this thing?
Yeah, powerful, man. And then I'm assuming and this might be a dumb question, but I'm assuming the consultations with those are, because that's a strategy I've never implemented with the Airbnb, and with all this being new, it was like a month ago, everybody wanted to buy Airbnbs, and now everybody wants to unload them, so I've yet to go on a listing presentation with somebody specifically in that scenario and situation. But is that conversation any different when you get into that listing presentation, with that, just kind of discovery process, or just with their mindsets of that Airbnb owner? I mean, what are things that you'd recommend people to be prepared to, or is it just like any other listing consultation?
No, it is different. The nice thing about the Airbnb or the landlords is it's much more of a business situation, and it's not usually as emotional, right? Because they don't usually have to sell this to go buy or move somewhere else. So that's nice in itself. It just comes down to numbers. I try to provide them as much, because, analytical stats that I can, saying, here's where we are, here's where we could be. What does that do to you if we end up down here, which is very possible? Are you in a position to wait that long? And so it's those kind of conversations of just more like a financial advisor, right? Like, again, your stocks just lost 30% last week, but markets get stable. It could come back. As soon as this all happened, my broker was calling me immediately going, how much extra cash you have? Because we have a lot of opportunity to buy some stuff at really low prices. And he's the same mindset as me. Instead of being like, oh, I got to call Brendan and tell him he just lost, X amount of money in 4 days, right? So it's a way of just explaining to people that there's going to be opportunities, but sometimes you got to cash out, wait. And one of those conversations is, why don't we cash out now, wait, keep all this equity that you gained over the last 2, 3, 5, 7, 10 years. In our market, we've been on a 10-year increase. Take all of those gains, hold your money right now, and then reinvest it once this all does go if it does all go, down drastically, and then buy at the bottom again and do it all over again.
Yep. Love it, man. And then, so outside of the, going after Airbnbs and landlords right now, what are some of the things that you were doing prior to this that are still working really well and effective for you?
Yeah. So we're still crushing expireds. And now the biggest pot that we have been the hardest ones for a while are for sell by owners. For sell by owners, didn't really think they needed us over the last couple of years. Now they really need us, right? So yeah, it's we can now provide some of us, not all the agents, but a lot of us that do and take pride in this, can provide them with such a high value of why they need us that it was hard navigating as a for sale by owner before. Now you're really in a pickle if you don't have somebody that's talking about it 24/7. They know the laws, they know the rules, they know the risks, they know the clauses, they know how to, we have COVID-19 real estate clauses that we include in contracts, not only to push out dates, but to protect people if somebody quits. And, people are suing people right now. Mr. Seller, you really want to keep trying to do that on your own in this climate, right? Let me come help you. Let me set up a Zoom link and I can tell you how I can help you, right? So yeah, that pod has been better. Before, for us, we follow a very kind of stringent routine. So it's expireds at 7:30 a.m. Then after we clean out all the expireds, we hit old expireds. Then for sell by owners, we hit the for sale by owners. Then we go to the notice of elective demand list. So pre-foreclosures, people that are 90 days past due on their rent. Then from there, we check down to our just sold. So we just sold a home in your neighborhood. We have another buyer that's interested in your neighborhood. Then we check down to just listed. So we just listed a home in your neighborhood. We know it's going to sell quickly. Who do you know it's going to sell? Then from just listed, we go to database. So just your general database. And so the cadence of that day becomes very, I don't know, it's a routine. It just becomes, a routine. And even with that, I'm not saying that's all easy, right? We got agents that love it. We got agents that hate it. We've got inside sales associates that make a lot of those calls. And then on top of that, we have leads. So we focus and direct our leads on what's your home worth type of, Facebook, Instagram type property leads. We push people directly to our site through pay-per-click. So curious, if they're looking at a certain neighborhood, we have landing pages on our website that are detailed out you could have a condo building that nobody's ever heard of in Arvada, Colorado, and the ad will take you directly to there, and you can see exactly what the properties are selling for, what's available for sale. You go to click on it, you get force registered, we capture your information, we call you, talk to you, turn you into a nurture, and sell your house. So, and then I also I kind of double down on radio and TV, right? So I do a lot of radio and TV. Never did that before and still had great success. It was just to help with the team and to give us more branding and validity. And right now, those partnerships have really panned out because I was on Talk News and everybody was like, why are you on Talk News? And I was like, well, now you know why people are on the news, because radio news. And again, luckily I had my contracts locked in because now people are listening to the news and watching the news more than they ever did on the history of Earth. And the ads have changed with a little bit of the message just saying, more empathetic. Hey, we understand you're, being challenged during this COVID-19 situation. We completely are there with you. We're here to help. If you have questions about how to navigate these turbulent times with any of your real estate needs, reach out to us. So it's just before where it was like, we'll sell your house or we'll buy it. And it was more like, now it's like, we're here. And we really do feel that way. I'm pretty, brash in my aspects, but we really do care. I mean, we've been doing a lot of charity work. We've doubled down on our charity and food drives and raising donations through our office. And I mean, oh my gosh, just coming from a place of value, right? I would say 50% of our week is who can we help? The other 50% is we need to help ourselves and continue to do business so our agents can survive. Not even survive, but thrive.
Yeah, such powerful stuff, dude. Man, love it. So then, with this, because man, it sounds like, and this seems to hold true for not just agents, but any successful entrepreneur that I'm speaking to now during these times that has also been through other big market shifts, recessions, and thrived during those times, where it seems like the commonality is really everybody's doubling down. Right? Because like you just said, they're not looking to just survive. They want to thrive. And there's more millionaires and billionaires created in down markets than in good markets and so forth. And they understand that. So, on a personal level for you, how are you structuring your day to guard your focus into, because it sounds like you've added a lot of things on your plate, right? So I'm sure you've got to be extremely intentional with your time, your schedule, your routines, and so forth. So, what can you kind of walk us through what that looks like and your intentionality with that?
Yeah, 100%. And I'll give you what a normal agent looks like on our team, and then kind of what mine is a little bit different because of the different buckets. But yeah, so first of all, I'm a firm believer of the miracle morning. So, if people haven't done the miracle morning, I start my day at 4:30. I go through what they call the savers, so affirmations, meditation. I journal every morning, which I never thought I would do, but it's actually helped my mind quite a bit. And then work out, and then 7:30 hit the phone, 7:30 to 11 o'clock, just straight up outbound lead generation with the buckets we talked about. 11 to 12 o'clock, we're doing lead follow-up, so database, getting all those people into the database and putting them onto the workflows. 12 to 12:30, we have every day a Zoom role play. So we do live role play. Every day is themed a different theme. So like today is Thursday. So Thursday Throwdown is today. So we kind of make it a contest type atmosphere where two agents go head to head in a celebrity squares challenge, and I throw objection handlers at them and they answer them. And we have a prize. It's just stuff to make this fun, right? We got to learn it, and it sucks, but we got to make it fun. So we have live role play, then lunch, right? Go outside, because right now just go out and get some fresh air so you don't have a freaking nervous breakdown. Then come back, and then the rest of the afternoon should either be set up for Zoom appointments, client care calls, whatever it is, or continue to prospect if you have nothing else going on. So that's the structure of a regular day. My days get kind of compacted now into some different blocks where I try to compact as much business meetings that I can to a 3-day process. Then on Friday, I try to save that open for recording YouTube videos, doing informational webinars, trying to record even for our agents better scripts, dialogues, basically just sharpening the toolbox all on Fridays. And then Saturday and Sunday right now, there's not much else to do, so just keep working, right? So, but I don't call it work because I like what I do and I think it's fascinating. And so, you just kind of keep it moving. But it's really just, people keep telling me, man, I'm so bored. I'm like, I can't find another minute in the day because I'm so excited right now, because it's like, we like you said, there's just so much opportunity as long as you look at it with the right lens. And it also gave us a pause button on going, hey, here's some things we didn't have right? We didn't realize some of our tech wasn't at the level it needed to be. We didn't realize a lot of our information wasn't really able to be clearly done digitally, right? So our marketing wasn't set up that way. So we've really gone back and retooled everything. I started looking at it and saying, okay, everybody's like, oh, we're going to be fine in May. I go, let's just act as if we had to work like this for the next year. Think about if we had to do this for the next 12 months, how would we have to change our business? And so we had to retool everything. And that's a lot. And I can see why some agents just go, screw it, I'm just going to wait and see what happens, because this is for the birds. Because you have to become a new person. I never thought I'd watch so many YouTube videos, listen to so many podcasts, try to figure out all these technologies that I never had to deal with before, but now is the time, right? I keep telling people, let's act like if we're in 2022, not 2015. And I think some people are still acting like they're in 1997, right? So I'm just trying to look 2 years ahead. What does this landscape look like?
Yeah, love it, man. So then, you mentioned earlier Matterport videos. And I had yet, this is prior to the environment that we're in, but I had yet to meet anybody that had actually sold a home, let's just say directly from like just the Matterport video, and so my perception of it, and this could be false, I've never done one, was, it's something cool to showcase the seller and might win you more listings, which those tools definitely hold a great place, right?
Fluff. Fluff.
What's that?
Fluff. We call that the fluff.
Yeah. Yep. So, but I am curious with, amongst these times, man, are you seeing the value in those more, or is it still kind of a fluff piece, or is it something that is becoming really valuable in this time?
It is becoming valuable. Yeah. I was right there with you, man. I'm like, yeah, it's because you really were like, we just got to get the person there to see the property. But now, yes, because online views of homes have gone up almost 40%, at least in our market, and I don't know what it is around the world, but so if online views have gone up 40%, then the way that people are deciphering information has changed. And before, where they could go, yeah, I see the pictures, yeah, I saw it on the phone, let's just go take a look at the damn house. Well, they can't go do that now, so they're now sitting there and having to look at that house. And then the agent, their buyer agent, is usually having to explain to them a lot better. So it's really a much bigger tool for the buyer's agent, because the buyer agent can actually set up a virtual tour. Like on our website, we've added an entire different link called Schedule a Virtual Tour. So they'll click on that link, put in their contact information, and then we'll take them and either directly connect them to the seller, or if they have a Matterport, we'll walk them through the features and benefits. Because still, some of these people have never bought a house. They don't know what a boiler is. They don't know what a these certain things are. So if we can help them guide that through that process, whether they decide to make the offer now or wait, right now we're just educating buyers differently with the use of these virtual tour technologies to make sure that when the time comes, they're good to go once we jump in, or if they want to make an offer right now. And we've done that. I mean, we've just down the street from actually where I live, we just did one with a wonderful client of mine who's out in California. And again, was never seen the property, sight unseen. We did all of the virtual FaceTime showings. She sold it. She can't even leave San Francisco right now, but she knows she has a job here. When she gets here, she still had to buy a place, right? So yeah, she was nervous, and there was nerves there, right? And we're holding the iPad and showing her kind of every nook and cranny. And yes, was it a pain in the wazoo? For sure, but it worked. And then we do mail out closing. She did a curbside closing in California, right? So curbside, like it's like Outback Steakhouse curbside, right? So they come out in the mask, give her papers like a drive-in theater. She signs them in her car with her mask on. They go back in, notarize it, come back out. She gets her documents. She drives off. She's got a new house.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And yeah, I mean, it's like you talked about, is it more work? Sure, but leaders lead during times of crisis, and that's exactly what you guys are doing at a huge level, man. I love it. So then, I'm just curious because I'm sure you're getting asked this question by your buyers, sellers, plus your agents, plus a lot of other people hitting you up, but it's, people speculating on what the market is going to do. Are you somebody that spends time trying to predict what it's going to do, or is it just, hey man, like, I'm not going to spend the time in speculation. I'm just going to focus on adapting to what we're seeing in the current landscape and just kind of taking it as those times go, right? Because we've got to control our focus in such a way. And I'm just kind of curious on what you personally do for your outlook on that.
Yeah, I really try to provide them data the same way I think a financial advisor or a consultant would. And I just go, look, it's not what I think, it's what the market has historically told us. Here's how long it took to recover after 9/11. Here's how long it took to recover after the last mortgage, breakdown. Here's what that looked like and what happened during those times. Now, these are different than those. 9/11 was different than 2009 or 10 or whatever. Right? Those were different times compared to 2020, but they were all different, but they still had the same effect. They hurt the markets. There was issues, and we couldn't sell properties, as we could in a previous landscape. So here's what happened there historically. Here's what could happen here. What would you like to do?
Yep.
And that's all we can do. I tell agents all the time, remove the word I think, my opinion, I recommend. It's here's what the market is telling us, or here's what the market has told us, right? And here's the statistics. And one of the biggest statistics we're monitoring right now is showings, right? How many actual physical showings? And yeah, showings dropped down dramatically. I think it was like 78% of showings, right? Through our showing service, we can tell how many showings dropped down. But showings went down, but virtual views went up. So people are still looking at the properties in some form or fashion. They just have gotten stuck in a bubble that's going to be holding them up for a little while. And then there's going to be people that get stuck in the bubble that lost all their jobs, that can't do anything, that are going to need to sell, which means there's going to be investors. We're doubling down on making sure our investors and anybody that has cash is ready to rock and roll when this really comes up too, because there's going to, of course, to be opportunity. There's always going to be an opportunity where somebody over leveraged themselves and has to get out and needs to sell and is desperate. There's going to be people that are getting divorced right now because they're spending way too much time with their significant other. There's people that all these things are going to happen. So there's always going to be this balance, but it never stops. It just changes. It's just different. That's all.
Yeah. It's like real estate's always trading hands. You're just identifying, who's trading it at this time and adapting to whom that is. But it sounds like you've been very intentional with mastering skill sets. So whether it is a traditional buyer seller, whether it is an investor, whether it is a distressed short sell, scenario, how to service each of those clients because you've invested that time, like you mentioned, watching all these YouTube videos and working on your own skill sets where you can quickly pivot through those.
Well said. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. As I said, you can't put your head in the sand. if I know agents that are still operating off an Excel spreadsheet, right? They don't have a CRM, they don't have a database, they don't have a workflow, they don't have any of these things. And it's just crazy to me to go, now is the time where you could learn all of this stuff. And they're going, hey, they're trying to figure out, you know, what Netflix show they're going to watch next, right? It's just, but that's even more exciting for us that want it, right? Because we know that that's human nature, right? People say it's the 80-20. In real estate, I really think it's the 95-5. 5% of the agents sell 95% of the properties, right? And I know that statistically is the fact. And the reason we do is because it's not because we're crazy and we want to work all these hours. It's because we actually have passion for it. And then we decided to do the extra work to put in the systems and tools to build on it, instead of just chasing our tail. You know, oh, I got a deal, and then I got too busy, and now I don't have any systems, so then I have to go back and work again, and then I get a deal, and I'm too busy, right? I hate the roller coaster ebb and flow effect, where I'm just like, build some systems so you can at least go roller coaster, but the roller coaster keeps going up, right? It keeps going up and not just flat. So yeah, there's going to be a ton of opportunity for those that are willing to be open-minded and learn.
So when it comes to that, man, how do you, I mean, you've sold so many homes over the years, and you know, you're one of the, top 1% of realtors on the planet, right? How do you stay open-minded and don't allow yourself to get to a place of maybe arrogance where, oh, I already know this. I'm good here, right? Where you can continue to be the student no matter the level of your success.
Thank you. Yeah. And that is where I see a lot of the failure is you got to be humble, and there's always someone out there. Even when I look at, the number one agents on the country, right? People that are selling 5,000, 7,000, whatever the number home is, that's one metric you can look at. The one that really had to bring me home, and I learned this kind of several years ago, was profit, right? Profit is the only thing that matters as a real true business owner. And it sounds greedy. People hate that word. They're like, oh, profit. And it's like, no, because with profit, I can do a lot of things. I can build, I can help with my charities. I can help, not be as stressed out about helping other agents build their lives. So if I'm in a profitable business, that helps me, really be able to be humble and focused on it. As far as the learning of the other things is always just going, if you had to rate me and you said, Brendan, how good are you in real estate? I would say I'm a 3 out of 10. If 10 is like the best, I'm still a 3. And here's where we do a self-analysis. And I think your listeners will like this. I always tell people to write down these circles. And there's 4 circles that I always try to rate everybody's business in. Number 1, on a scale of 0 to 100%, your lead generation, in our world, we call it a planet, your lead generation planet. On a scale of 1 to 100, with 100% being it's absolutely phenomenal, meaning that it's scheduled, you have ISAs, you're clocking it, you're producing massive amounts of sales from it. What score would you give yourself right now? And everybody's like, oh, that's always the worst one. They're like 30% or 50%. Okay. The second one is networking. So when at the networking planet, I fall into charity, chamber of commerce, alumni associations. And everybody goes, oh yeah, I do all those things. And I go, how much business are you producing from that bucket? And then 0 to 100%, they write down the score. The third bucket is your internet presence, right? So your social media, pay-per-click, your CRM, anything that's digital that you're doing and you're crushing it, and it's the best, you've got the best internet game on earth, 0 to 100%. And they're like, 45%. And then the last bucket, your direct mail. And everybody's like, direct mail? People are still doing direct mail? Yes, I still, I crush direct mail. And direct mail can be a number of things for different people, right? This could be handwritten note cards. This could be what we call as our 8x8 33 touch, right? Every person we meet gets 8 touches 8 weeks in a row, and then they get 33 touches over the course of 12 months. What does that game look like? So when they do that final score, they add them up and we divide them by 4. Most agents on earth are going to be less than 50%, if they're being honest, right? So I go, look, your business isn't even a D average right now, right? You're not even an F, right? So what can we do to increase each one of those buckets 5% to get you better? And that's the easy way. Because if I just sat there all day, and we both know this, I just told you, make a bunch of calls and you're going to have success. No one's going to want to do that on earth. That's a miserable life, right? But if you break it into these 4 planets and you go, how can we get well refined in each one? Because all 4 of them are important. It really helps. And I have to do my self-analysis all the time, right? And then once you get those 4 done, you can start adding in the flair, what I call the 360 dump, right? Which is radio, TV, billboards, podcasts, YouTube channels, all of that. But some people, in our industry too, they skip those core things. And I've got agents that I see that they go, I'm starting a podcast today, and I'm going to make all my sales from podcasts, and investors are going to love me. And I go, well, have you ever sold an investment property? No. Okay. Well, what do you know about the investment? Have you read 1,000 books on it? Because even that, I don't say you have to do it, but I'm like, you better be the most educated person on earth about it. And they're like, no. And I'm saying, that's totally, take all that aside. Still do the podcast, but can we really focus on these 4 too? Don't get rid of the podcast, but these are important, right? You've got to get these core things if you want to build a long-term, really successful real estate career, in my opinion.
Yeah, love it. Such awesome stuff, dude. So then, something that you said just a moment ago when it comes to profitability, because it's something that isn't really discussed. We're an industry that celebrates the gross. Nobody really talks about the net. And in my own experience with my team, right, we had one year, it was 2017, which was our biggest unit sold year. Did 653 sales on my team. And then in 2018, but we did 484 in 2018. But 2018, I was much more profitable than 2017. We just were scaling so fast, brought on a lot of part-time agents, and didn't have the infrastructure to really support them. And a lot of things. So on paper, it was like, yeah, we sold a hell of a lot more homes, right? But my bank account was nowhere near what it was. Like, I don't think a lot of people grasp that gross volume doesn't mean profitability. And there's very few team leaders that I meet that are doing over 100 million a year that are making and netting over 400, 500 grand a year. I mean, very few, right? So I don't think people really grasp the importance of the profitability part and the importance of that as you scale to still hit those profit margin benchmarks and so forth. And, what are some best practices that you have followed as you scaled this to ensure that your margins are still really healthy and you're growing smart?
Yeah. So 2 things along the way, and this is going to kind of sound silly, but it should be a no-brainer, was, we adopted the Dave Ramsey practices very early on, right? And we really were trying to hold true to that. And we, just like you, then ego got caught in, and you were like, I'm growing, I'm going to have an expansion team, all this. And you're right, the same thing happened to us, where we were like, man, we're doing double, but making the same or less. What the heck are we doing? Because the headache just got to be double too. So then the next big model that we followed was the profit first model, right? So profit first book. And boy, I mean, that changed everything. I mean, we started probably following that model 2.5, 3 years ago. And the basic synopsis of the model is just to have that profit is your number 1 priority. And you build these 5 bank accounts that the money goes into, and how you organize those 5 bank accounts. And again, just go read the book. And I had to read it 6 times before I even understood it, because I'm slow, right? So I had to read it 6 times. And then the other reason I know a lot of people won't do it is because it was a pain to go set up. Just like everything, right? It was a pain to go set up. It's a pain to go do these things. And you go into the bank and they're like, you want 5 separate accounts for what? And I'm like, because look, I read this book and I want to do this. So just give me the accounts, right? And then once we started seeing the true percentages, because it all comes down to the whole mythology of profit first is that you're focused on, number 1, usually people run their business where I do all of these sales and then the profit that's left over at the end is what I get. Well, starts with, you start with how much you need to get and you build everything else around that. And so that made us have to streamline. And the word I always think of is innovate. We had to become so much more innovative to cut our budgets. We went back, as I told you, I do radio and TV. I had to go back and renegotiate 12 times like I never renegotiated before, because I was getting raked over the coals on what I was getting charged, because I didn't care. I was moving so fast. I was like, yeah, I'm on radio and I'm on TV. Cool. And then I went back and I'm like, goodness sakes, you could have been doing it at 1/3 of the cost if you would have just negotiated, right? A little bit. So we went back, and it wasn't just cut costs, cut this. We did cut a lot of stuff too, like everybody's doing right now. You know, you're looking at all these residual things you were paying for. I coach some agents, and they're like, I've got da 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 da, and I'm like, well, how much do you make off of one of them? And they're like, well, I don't know. I don't really track it. And I'm like, then you probably don't need it, right? If you can't figure out how much you're actually making from it. And so, yeah, that model, as difficult as it is, it slowed us down. And now we make better educated decisions because of it on how we spend our marketing dollar, where we invest it. We really try to see the return on investment of every lead that we purchase, right? You know, what's the cost of conversion for everything? And another software that helped us a lot with that, and I'll give them a plug, is CTE. So yeah, so you know, CTE, I mean, once we really dove into CTE and had all of the analytics, which is super cheap, it's like $30 a month or something, that was a game changer for us, because it was just, you know, on my phone, I have my daily dashboard where I look at it all the time, and I'm like, it's a constant reminder. It's like a heart monitor for the business. So that's what helped us.
Yep. No, such awesome stuff, man. So Brendan, with for those that are watching and listening, man, if they want to continue to follow you, I know you talked about, you know, your YouTube channel. They want to check out your website. Sounds like you also do some coaching as well. And it sounds like you also have some training that you're doing for agents right now too. Like you mentioned that you were on a training right before you jumped on this with the podcast. For those that are watching, listening, that they want to check out what you're doing. Maybe they have a referral for your area. Maybe they want to join your team in your area. Maybe they want to get in touch with you to talk about your coaching or whatever it may be. What are the best places, man, for people to get in touch with you and continue to follow you at?
Yeah, thank you. And it's very simple. It's just Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching. If you Google that, it'll give you all the portals. Facebook, we have Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching page, Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching YouTube channel, Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching. Any porthole, you should be able to find us with that hook. But yeah, I go through live scripts on YouTube. I go through real-time situations. You know, just trying to deliver value, because people help me along the way, right? I mean, I learned so much of watching old school Mike Ferry videos. You know, Mike Ferry was like my mentor at the time, and learned a lot from what I liked about Mike Ferry, and I learned a lot that I didn't like, right? You're going to find your own. I think people go, I'm not a Mike Ferry person, but there's still some things you can learn, right? I tried to put together the best of everybody and you know, make this, you know, that I think of that old school robot where you plug in the different pieces and try to make the master robot. I go, each one of those is a piece that I can use. I love Brian Buffini and By Referral. I love Tom Ferry and some of the things they do, but I don't like everything they do because it wasn't a fit for me and my culture, right? So, but I'll be darn sure I'll learn from each one of them every piece that I can that's going to help, you know, fit into my business. So yeah, Brendan Bartic Real Estate Coaching. But I'd love to, you know, give me a like, give me a follow, give me a subscribe, whatever it is, and we would be more than happy to just keep giving you good content.
Yep. Love it, dude. And those that are watching and listening, we'll make it super easy under there. Wherever you're at, there's going to be a link right below where you just be able to click on that and connect with Brendan right away. So one last question for you, man. Knowing everything that you know now today, through all your experiences of your real estate journey and real estate career, if Brendan today could go back and have a conversation with Brendan when he first entered this industry, you know, right, and give yourself two pieces of advice that you feel would have just massively fast forwarded this success trajectory that you're on, what would those two pieces of advice be?
Number one, role play. I know that's one of those funny things, and by role play meaning practice. Practice, you know, go through your scripts and dialogues. If you have a listing presentation, know it inside and out, backwards and forwards. Get role play partners across the country. Try to surround yourself with the best people that are doing it at the highest level. So yeah, by far and away would be role play. And then number two, if I could go back, I would have just been more focused on trying to learn more. I would have probably read more, watched more, you know, videos. I would have done all of that. I think you know, even as we all are when we're younger, we're a little, you know, arrogant. And I knew that I could just crush the phones. So I would just crush the phones. And I look back now and I'm like, boy, if I would have just probably learned a little bit more, I could have done so much more faster, but I was so caught up in the day-to-day routine. So yeah, I would say practice and just learn everything you can. You should have Audible or whatever your method is of listening to books. I mean, on replay, there were certain books that I had to listen to 100 times probably before I understood the principles and I really, got them. And the one that changed my life was The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? So Gary Keller, his book, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, I just took that book and used the system, tools, and models. And I wasn't even at Keller Williams. I was at Coldwell Banker, and I started doing them. And that's when I learned how to build a team. I was a good agent, but it really helped me understand models to start building. And without models and systems, we're just out there swinging in the dark, right? I just want to work off of what other people already laid down the ground track for, and then sprinkle my flavor on it along the way.
Yep. Powerful stuff, man. And those watching and listening, I know into every podcast with this, but information without implementation is just truly the start of delusion. Information isn't power. It's taking that information, taking massive action on it, executing on it, that gives you the power to create the life that you know you want and deserve. And Brendan shared so many amazing, powerful pieces of advice with you guys today. Make sure that you take something that you learned, go out there and take immediate action. So again, you can create that life that you know you want and deserve. And Brendan, I know you're an extremely busy man, and I truly appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to be here, man. It's been an honor and a hell of a lot of fun, brother.
No, and thank you. I do several of these, and this was by far one of the most enjoyable. So you're obviously extremely talented, as we already knew. But yeah, I'm honored to have me on. And if there's any way I can do anything to help you in the future, just let me know.
Yep, truly means a lot, my friend. You as well. And you guys are watching, listen, thank you so much for all your support, and we'll see you next time. Peace.